We live surrounded by men whose presence commands no respect. They walk among us with dimmed eyes, unsteady voices, and empty words. They are polite, pleasant, adaptable, but not strong. You see them every day, heads down, eyes fixed on glowing screens, waiting for guidance, permission, validation. They avoid conflict as if it were violence. They chase comfort as if it were a purpose. This widespread apathy did not appear by chance. It was carefully engineered. Centuries ago, Machiavelli warned, when a ruler cannot crush his enemies, he weakens his own people until they no longer have the strength to rebel. That is what we see today. Modern society doesn't create warriors, it molds consumers. Men taught to obey, to apologize for their instincts, to serve systems they don't even understand. Masculinity has been rebranded as a threat, ambition is viewed as poison, and discipline as outdated. Many accept this new doctrine because it's comfortable to believe in it. But the truth behind the veil is simple. A weak man is easy to rule, a tired man is easy to manipulate, a silent man poses no threat. Machiavelli saw this long before others did. The most effective domination doesn't come through chains or weapons, but through comfort, distraction, and subtle control. The fragile men we encounter today are not broken. They are exactly what the system intended them to become. But what if you refused to accept this fate? What if you reclaimed what they tried to erase? The moment you wake up is the moment you become dangerous. And the system is not prepared to deal with dangerous men. Powerful men do not ask for permission. They build, lead, advance. And that is the real threat to any structure built on domination. Individual power threatens the established order. Machiavelli understood that when a prince cannot destroy the strong, he must weaken them little by little, silently, with strategy. Today's society followed this advice, not through violence, but through something far more refined: comfort, convenience, and mass obedience. Strong men are not born from luxury. They are forged in adversity, in chaos, in resistance. But modern systems, schools, media, corporations, work to eliminate all friction. Life is sterilized. Everything is padded, simplified, softened. And in this relief, strength vanishes. The average man today is trained, not educated. He is conditioned to follow rules, obey authority, stand in line, and never question the hand that feeds him. He is taught to think correctly, speak cautiously, and behave like everyone else. He is rewarded for blending in, not for standing out. The system does not want exceptional men. It wants obedient, predictable, moldable men. That's why it redefines masculinity as a problem. It punishes dominance, mocks ambition, treats aggression as illness, and labels assertiveness as arrogance. This is not progress, it is pacification. It is the calculated weakening of the masculine spirit. A tame man is easy to manage. He does not rise. He does not resist. He does not build his own empire. He merely fulfills his duties, sits down, and stays quiet. Just another number in the machine. Today, obedience is more valued than excellence. Think, when was the last time a power institution, a school, a company, a government, encouraged you to be strong, independent, relentless, and fearless? It doesn't happen. It never will. Because if enough men wake up and remember who they really are, the entire system collapses. Machiavelli didn't just observe rulers, he advised them. He explained how to manipulate the masses, and his message was clear: divide, distract, and weaken. That's why we are given entertainment instead of education, distraction instead of discipline, comfort zones instead of battles. As long as you are comfortable, you will never be powerful. And the fewer powerful men there are, the more the system thrives. The harsh truth few are willing to face is this: if you feel empty, restless, or apathetic, it's because you were born for more, but society never wanted that version of you to survive. You came into this world with fire in your veins, but were given screens. You were born to conquer, but were offered comfort. You came to fight, but were handed fear and shame, and you accepted it. The modern man is weak not for lack of potential, but because he traded his strength for peace, approval, and convenience. And now, he doesn't even know what he lost. But it's still possible to remember. You can reject all of this. you can rebuild yourself from the ruins. Because while the system prefers obedient men, it fears the ones who awaken. In the past, power was seized through force, blood, and steel. Today, it is extracted through pleasure. Not the kind that elevates, but the kind that numbs, that weakens. Machiavelli understood a brutal truth. A man dulled by comfort is easier to control than one hungry for glory. The rulers changed their strategy. They stopped confronting men with weapons and began seducing them with indulgence. What weakens the modern man is not the absence of opportunity, but the constant presence of cheap satisfactions. He wakes up tired, reaches for his phone before brushing his teeth, and receives dopamine without effort. Infinite scrolling teaches him to avoid real struggle. Why chase greatness when pleasure is so easy? With every swipe, he trains his brain to flee from challenge. Instant food, pornography, digital approval, on-demand entertainment. No friction, no patience, no visible cost. But there is always a hidden price. His soul, his masculinity, his instinct. Machiavelli did not live in the age of TikTok and fast food, but he predicted it all with precision. He wrote that a wise ruler keeps the people distracted and divided so they never notice their chains tightening. Today's chains are invisible. They are made of pleasure. Pain awakens, but pleasure puts to sleep. The man drowning in comfort does not question, does not build. He only consumes and disappears. Discipline is mocked, sacrifice discarded. Men who seek mastery are called extremists. Why? Because discipline leads to power, sacrifice to strength, and mastery to threat. Dangerous men do not obey. The system had to neutralize them without violence, so it used their own biology against them. It feeds them synthetic pleasure until they forget what true satisfaction feels like. Until chasing a dream seems harder than scrolling a screen. Until confrontation feels scarier than silence. Until mediocrity becomes acceptable. And worst of all, until loneliness becomes normal. Machiavelli knew that a population softened by luxury would never resist. They would beg for their chains, as long as the cage was comfortable. The new war is not fought on battlefields. It is fought in your habits, your vices, your excuses. And the enemy is winning. Rulers do not fear angry men. They fear disciplined ones. The ones who fast when others gorge, who train when others rest, who stay silent when others beg for attention. These are immune to control, to seduction, to slavery disguised as comfort. You were born into a system designed to weaken you, not through force, but through pleasure. And you were given a choice, to be a king chained in gold, or a warrior in solitude and steel. One path leads to a sweet, soft death, the other, to the forge of the unbreakable. Machiavelli whispered this truth across the centuries. He who chooses comfort today, harvests regret tomorrow. The attack on masculinity is not a recent phenomenon. It has been unfolding for centuries, not as an accidental outcome of shifting times, but as a deliberate, systematic effort to dismantle the roots of male strength and leadership. This is not merely the result of modern ideologies or progressive movements. It is a calculated dismantling of a lineage that once passed strength, wisdom, and honor from father to son. Thinkers like Machiavelli understood the power of legacy, not just in wealth or dominion, but in the continuation of a code, a transmission of resilience, discipline, and clarity that fortified entire societies. When this chain is broken, there is no need for violence or brute force. All it takes to neutralize men is to sever their connection to the source of their power. Fathers, break that bond, and you break the man before he ever fully forms. The father is not just a biological figure. He is the first mentor, the first model of how a man should stand, fight, and lead. He teaches through presence, through consistency, and through the hard truths that life does not apologize for. But in today's world, countless boys grow up without that presence. They are left to drift in a culture that rewards submission and punishes strength. Even those fortunate enough to have a father at home often find that he, too, has been weakened, beaten down by a system that incentivizes passivity and penalizes conviction. In this vacuum, institutions step in to fill the role that fathers once held. Schools no longer teach grit or character. They teach obedience and emotional fragility. Media no longer celebrates virtue, sacrifice, or discipline. It glorifies indulgence, softness, and compliance. Machiavelli knew, once a man loses his sense of identity, he becomes easy to mold. And there is no easier way to erase that identity than to erase the connection to the men who came before him. This disconnection doesn't just damage individuals, it corrodes entire civilizations. A society without fathers becomes a society without anchors, without examples, without standards. The result is a generation of men who are told that masculinity is toxic, that ambition is dangerous, that silence and strength are signs of repression rather than self-mastery. These men are taught that comfort is the highest good and that discomfort is to be avoided at all costs. They are raised to be harmless, not honorable. And make no mistake, this is no accident. This is the result of a long-term strategy. A Machiavellian blueprint designed not to destroy men violently, but to render them irrelevant. A man with no lineage, no role model, no sense of rooted strength becomes docile, dependent, and easy to control. He poses no threat to power, because he has been robbed of his own. He does not rise, because he was never taught how. But Machiavelli did not write for slaves. He wrote for rulers, for those willing to rise, to take control, and to face the uncomfortable truth that freedom is never given, only taken. If you've read this far, then you already feel it. The war around you is real, but so is the war within. You were not born to be weak. You were not made to serve. You were built to lead, to fight, to conquer not just the outer world, but the kingdom within your own soul. Yet look around. How many men have traded strength for comfort, power for approval, and fire for acceptance? Modern society did not stumble into this. It followed a design. A deliberate dismantling of the strong, masculine mind. Because the strong man, silent, focused, self-governed, is the greatest threat to control. So what now? First, stop asking for permission. Weak men wait to be told what to do. Strong men forge their path. Power will never be handed to you. It must be claimed through discipline, vision, and a ruthless detachment from distractions. Second, detox your mind. Free it from artificial validation, from addictive entertainment, from the soft ideologies that fear discomfort. Machiavelli once said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." That doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means becoming unshakable. Third, rebuild your body. Not for vanity, but because endurance, strength, and pain are the first arenas in which mastery is forged. Fourth, master your silence. The weak are loud because they need to be noticed. You must learn to move in silence, to observe, to act without announcement. Let the world underestimate you, until it's too late. Fifth, choose your battles. Not every insult requires a reaction. Not every enemy deserves your time. Power lies in restraint. The man who reacts impulsively is already defeated. The man who responds strategically owns the battlefield. So what now? First, stop asking for permission. Weak men wait to be told what to do. Strong men forge their path. Power will never be handed to you. It must be claimed through discipline, vision, and a ruthless detachment from distractions. Second, detox your mind. Free it from artificial validation, from addictive entertainment, from the soft ideologies that fear discomfort. Machiavelli once said, "It is much safer to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both." That doesn't mean becoming cruel. It means becoming unshakable. Third, rebuild your body. Not for vanity, but because endurance, strength, and pain are the first arenas in which mastery is forged. Fourth, master your silence. The weak are loud because they need to be noticed. You must learn to move in silence, to observe, to act without announcement. Let the world underestimate you, until it's too late. Fifth, choose your battles. Not every insult requires a reaction. Not every enemy deserves your time. Power lies in restraint. The man who reacts impulsively is already defeated. The man who responds strategically owns the battlefield.